And it's time to reflect on what he has said. We have very distinguished gentlemen, experts in their own rights, people who are like Lumumba, who are searching for solutions. I thought I was moderating. Your job as MC doesn't also include giving me a code of conduct. Thank you, thank you. Now, we have three distinguished discussants who would have been treated to another session with Professor Bolaji Akinyemi. He has asked me to convey his apologies that he's not able to be with us, but he's following all that we are doing, and at the appropriate time, we'll get the right responses from him. On your behalf, therefore, let me welcome first His Excellency Babatunde Raji Fashola. You know him. This is an esteemed Nigerian. He is a mover and a shaker. He has had everything that qualifies him to be exactly what Lumumba has described, a senior advocate of Nigeria, a former minister of the Federal Republic. Now, by today's standards, he would have been more than a coordinating minister, because you all remember how many portfolios he had. And most of all, a former governor of this state, the foremost state in Nigeria and in Africa, Lagos State. Your Excellency, the other day, we were treated to why Lagos is number one, not only in Africa, but also in the global south. And I know that the geopolitical dimensions of what Lumumba has presented here would be Lagos as the beginning. So let me invite our first discussant, and I'm coming to you now. We'll give each discussant 10 minutes. I know that you have prepared a great deal here, but of course, we trust you. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, please welcome His Excellency. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Prof, for that very stimulating intervention. I think that I will start from the end. And in the end, you said we must resolve. And some of those resolutions, perhaps, in my view, respectfully overlook the world that we now live in. A globalized world where no nation is an island anymore. But in starting from the end, you alluded, I think twice, to whether we were cursed or whether we were bewitched. Those thoughts have crossed many minds, mine included, but I don't believe in witchery or sorcery. I believe that we can achieve everything we set our minds to. And I think the first resolution I want to propose here is whether we can agree on what the Nigerian dream looks like. Can we agree? What is the Nigerian dream and what does it look like? And perhaps from there, if we have a measure of what the dream looks like, we can have an agreement on what success will look like. So that when we get to the destination of success, we can really say and thump our chest that we have hit here. Of course, success is not static, so we can redefine and set new goals. But those are important resolutions I want us to ponder about whether we can reach. Of course, The topic itself and the theme calls upon us as the leader of this continent to rise. And I want to dramatize that in a little way, just to perhaps contextualize the point I'm making about what success looks like. As Minister of Works, I served on many committees on the continent of Africa representing Nigeria. So I got to know that the leaders of Africa from a long time back had tried to connect this continent by road and by rail, apart from the airlines which he talked about. And there is a project called the Trans-African Highway. It contains 9 strategic highways to enable all of us to drive across the continent of Africa. But the instructive thing about those highways is that 3 of them end up in Lagos, out of 9 for the whole of the continent. So the significance of the challenge that Prof was posing in terms of our responsibility is somewhat demonstrated by just this data. That out of 9 Trans-African highways, 3 end up in Lagos. The Algiers-Lagos Highway, the Dakar-Lagos Highway, the Lagos-Mombasa Highway. And it was my lot as minister to do some work on some of these roads. So when Nigeria was building the Abuja-Kano Highway, 365 kilometers, they were contributing their share to the Lagos-Algiers Highway. When Nigeria was building the Lagos-Badagry Expressway, we were contributing our border share of the Lagos-Dakar Highway. And when we were building the bridge connecting us to Cameroon from Cross River, from Mfum, we were actually contributing our share to the Lagos-Mombasa Highway, which is the east-west road of the African continent, if you like. When Nigeria decided to embark on the Kano to Maradi rail line project, they were doing nothing different. They were standing up to be counted for their leadership responsibility. Of course, not a few of us raised questions then. Why are you spending money in another part of the world outside your border? And I think the raison d'etre has somewhat been provided in Prof's speech. But I think that those challenges themselves raise enormous opportunities. And I say the world has changed in a way that the generation that has the fiscal energy to do this work must understand that, as Prof said, instead of lamenting, is to find the opportunities within the definition of what the Nigerian dream looks like, what success looks like, and what good leadership looks like. Because we have had all sorts of leaders, and we seem not to be satisfied with what we have had. And so can we define what the successful leader looks like, so that when we see him, we may recognize him, we may converge around him, so that we will not end up in those afterthoughts sayings, with due respect to the great men and women who said words to this effect like, the best president we never had. So I think it is important to then have resolutions around these very seemingly simple but profound ideas. What is our gold standard for good leadership? What is our definition of success? What is the Nigerian dream? And so I think if we, the movers and shakers of Nigeria, can come to an agreement on those very simple but profound things on this auspicious occasion, perhaps we can then begin to propagate to those who care to listen. Let me close by saying that something is moving, and I think that it is important for us to see it. I'll be talking to a generation of people younger than me, and I'm seeing something different from what I saw. So growing up as a teenager, I was socialized on music, dress, food, fashion, and culture that was totally un-Nigerian. And perhaps that is why he asks, who bewitched us? Because we wanted to have Afro that was American, we wanted to have bell bottom, we wanted to listen to music that was from yonder, and all the movies that we watched were either Chinese, Indian, or American. But I think that is changing. That tide is slowly turning. The movies that the generation below us are watching are largely being produced from here. The music they are listening to is not what we listen to. They're listening to the music they are making. The food they are making, I mean, the debate on the continent about whose jollof rice is better is symbolic of the attention we are paying now, not to beef burger and hot dogs, but to indigenous cuisine. And I think that if we look back, not only did my generation consume that culture, we ultimately consumed the finished products that came with it. We consumed their shoes, their clothing, and their electronics. And I see that as that tide is turning, there's a unique opportunity to also now push with our music, our brands, push with our film, our finished products, push with our jollof rice, many finished goods that come from this part of the world. I think I will stop there. Thank you very much.
I think it deserves a round of applause. Thank you very much. We will have an opportunity to summarize at the end of it all. Let's quickly move to the next discussant. I need to let you know that he was my chairman of council at the University of Ibadan. And today we have loaned him to the University of Lagos, where he's pro-chancellor and chairman of council. So as a senior advocate of Nigeria and one who has seen it all, he can move mountains when he talks. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome His Excellency, Chief Wole Olanipekun. Thank you, sir.
May I appreciate you? And may I appreciate the Island Club for this very topical subject that we have brought to the front burner. It's a very, very serious one. It's one that we should approach with soberness, with reflection, looking backwards, foraying into the future. And I want to appreciate my brother, the former governor of Lagos State, for the summary. What exactly? Let me modify, let me edit a bit. What do we as a nation? What is our vision? What is our mission? How do we want to get there? Professor Lumumba, God bless you. You have a good soul. You are a pride to the black man and to the black race. Over and over and over, Nigeria has been depicted as the whipping boy of the black race, as the one to be held responsible for either success or failure of the black race, for our past, for our present, and for our future. Well, it's good. And that reminds me of what that citizen of the world said about Nigeria in 2007. And please, Professor Lumumba, when I asked for a copy of your speech, of your lecture, I was told that you would talk as the Spirit directs. So I will also make presentation as the Spirit directs. Mandela said about Nigeria in an interview in 2007, just the way you have spoken this afternoon and the way you have spoken, at least in the past three presentations of yours. about Nigeria. You know, I'm not very happy with Nigeria. I've made that very clear on many occasions. Yes, Nigeria stood by us than any other nation. But you let yourselves down, and Africa, the black race, very badly. Your leaders have no respect for their people. They believe that their personal interests are the interests of the people. They take people's resources and in turn to personal wealth. There is a level of poverty in Nigeria that should be unacceptable. I cannot understand why Nigerians are not more angry than they are. What do young Nigerians think about your leaders and their country? Do you teach them history? Do you have lessons on how your past leaders stood by us and gave us large amounts of money? You know, I hear from Angolans and Mozambicans and Zimbabweans how you open your hearts and their homes to them. I was in prison then, and it was, bemoaning the role Nigeria should play, the role Nigeria was not playing. And your presentation this afternoon is in like manner. But again, I'm not defending Nigeria. I can hold brief for Nigeria. Let us all come together. Let us remember what Shakespeare said in Julius Caesar, that the fault is not in our stars, but in ourselves. The fault is not in Nigeria alone. It's collective fault of Africa. You said something, that the African continents were not designed to succeed. Whether you look at it from the angle of what happened at the conference, where some people just looked at an imaginary map and they were bequeathing Africa to themselves, struggling which one to pick, small countries, where they didn't know, where they didn't see, where they didn't read of. They knew nothing about Africa. And let us take Nigeria as an example. They did not want Nigeria to succeed, whether from before amalgamation and during amalgamation and up to now. Somebody woke up somewhere from her bed telling a mistress, telling her, her boyfriend, that look, let us amalgamate Nigeria. Different people, different backgrounds, multinationals, different ethnic groups. Yes, they did that. But what have we done thereafter? My brother asked this question: what exactly is the project of Nigeria about? I've been very passionate about it. And he also mentioned governance and leadership. Permit me, because you mentioned one or two names. When we were there, when we were growing up, we learned so much about Africans and Pan-Africanists. Nkrumah of Ghana, Jomo Kenyatta from your place, Albert Lutuli, Jomo Kenyatta, I mentioned it, Julius Nyerere, all of them. I read this book, Let My People Go. I read it when I was in primary school or so. We were doing history. We are changing, and gentlemen, this has been my forte for quite some time. I'm so passionate about it. You cannot play Hamlet without the Prince of Denmark. We must do it, say it as it is, because this is an elite club, and Nigeria elites are here. You pose some questions. Continent not designed to succeed. Post-colonial African states designed to fail. Who bewitched us? These are difficult questions. Where are we going for? Where are we heading for? Gentlemen, Awolowo said, you also mentioned Awolowo. He said it over and over and over. Let's go straight to the point. We will get nowhere. If your shoe is flat, don't keep on repairing it. Throw it off. Buy a new set of shoes. Look at the garments of Nigeria you spoke about so glowingly, so gleefully. You say you like our garments. Whether the textiles are from Nigeria or not,